Hey y'all, my name is Stephen Lemieux. I'm an assistant instructor and a PhD student in rhetoric here at UT Austin. For the past year, I've been working in the SPURS program with Beaumont Central and Houston-Madison. Today we'll be focusing on the visual elements of websites. We'll be paying particular attention to how websites present arguments and how the visuals impact our understanding of the text. More often than not, when we're reading arguments, especially when we're reading them for school, I think that we tend to gloss over everything but the text. This is of course exacerbated by the fact that more often than not, we don't even read these arguments in their native environment. Most websites now have a print article feature that strips away everything but the text. We can see it here on the New York Times website where once I click it, it gets rid of the main image for the article. It also strips away most of the advertisements, suggested links, things like that. Up at the top, we still get a little New York Times banner. We get the title, we get the author, we get a little ad, but we don't get much else. Now that's not to say we shouldn't ever use the print article feature or that we have to always read these arguments in their native formats. It's a pretty useful feature when you just want to worry about the text, and I certainly use it all the time in my classes. But we have to be careful about just where we're drawing the line on what is and isn't part of an argument. When we work through a basic rhetorical analysis, thinking about ethos, pathos, logos, etc., it's important to keep in mind that there's more to an argument than text alone. Presentation and contextual elements can have drastic effects on what sort of impact an argument has. That said, some websites have a print function that is actually really well done. At the outset, we can see a difference between something like the New York Times, where, as I noted, all we're given is text pretty much, and something like Slate, where, again, we can see that this article is nestled amidst tons of images. You've got the banners up at the top, a lot of links, ads completely surrounding it, this big image that kind of frames the essay for us. And so if we go ahead and click on the print feature here, it gives us some options. It lets us choose what we think is important to the article. So for instance, I can get rid of this image, I can get rid of the caption, and I can pare it down to what I want to show, but it's nice at the very least that they give us this choice. With that said, let's go ahead and look at some arguments within websites. We can see how the visuals, how the space of the website, how the links, the context of that website can really begin to impact an argument. So I thought we'd look at two different sites. The first is Campus Progress. And Campus Progress is a kind of a progressive youth organization. They push for socially progressive political action. And the other is FreedomWorks. Now, FreedomWorks is a kind of national conservative PAC that's been really in the news for the past couple of years, but I guess has been around for quite a while. Now, one thing that I like to discuss with my students, especially when we're going over visual analysis and reading websites, is that first impressions matter. We really want to be able to quickly get a sense for what this website thinks about itself, how seriously it takes itself, and maybe even kind of what political bent it might have, although it can get us into dangerous water. People say don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, I grew up hearing that. But sometimes you have to, and sometimes that cover really matters. And so I think what we'll do is we'll look at these two websites and just begin to get a gist for how they construct themselves. And so FreedomWorks, the Pro Fisher website, has a real strong color scheme going on. I mean, you can see the red, the white, and the blue all over the place. The title, I think, is pretty well constructed with this. They have the nice star. It looks like a star from the flag, maybe. Shows some motion. We see the blue and the red. And then just throughout the website, again, red, white, and blue. Those are pretty much the only colors they use. And so at the very least, that says something, right? They're trying to tap into some notion of America. Maybe they're trying to present themselves as American, or just trying to lay claim to a national discourse. And so with FreedomWorks, beyond that initial first impression, we can begin to get a sense for how the website frames the argument of the text. And so we should note that the argument here, it's not kind of a classic editorial where it's someone giving us their opinion. Instead, what they've done is present a series of facts, a series of quotes, some background on the issue, that will lead the readers to understand Fisher v. Texas in a particular way. And so what we can see, looking at FreedomWorks as a whole, though, is that immediately they're tying in this issue to other aspects of their agenda. We can see related posts here, Supreme Court decision for non-lawyers, FreedomWorks Live, Obamacare coverage, etc. These are things that you might want to look on if you're interested in more from FreedomWorks. They also have a nice thing here on the side, the different categories for their blog. And so it's real easy to jump from topic to topic and kind of cover a lot of ground quickly. And again, all of this reflects back on the argument because it nests it in a particular context. The more you read from the site, the more you're going to get a sense for how or what perspective they're coming from. It's also important to note kind of what's right up at the top of a website. It seems that the most prominent aspect of the site is this update feature, where if you give them your information, you can begin to get updates. Right under that, and kind of in a shocking red, is make a donation. FreedomWorks is big on fundraising because they raise money and then they spend it on conservative candidates. And so we can see that part of this is solidifying kind of a specific political view that will result in particular people being elected. There aren't, we should notice, any ads. They're not trying to sell us anything but their own message. And so I think it's worth looking at, or it's at least worth thinking about how tightly they've constructed their own message by getting rid of ads, by kind of streamlining you right into the essay, or this list of facts in this case, by allowing you to very easily move to other essays. They're trying to create a specific view. And so if we turn over to Campus Progress, we can again start to get a first impression and then begin to read this website a little bit more in depth. Probably the most noticeable difference between Campus Progress and FreedomWorks is that Campus Progress isn't using the incredibly strong red, white, and blue color scheme. It's worth noting that politicians from all parties use red, white, and blue real prominently. As I'm sure y'all noticed in the last election, both Obama and Romney had red, white, and blue colored campaigns. But here we have kind of a light green and a light blue, and so both of these colors are throughout the website. You've got the light blue for all of the links, and then the green for all of the headings. And so beyond the color scheme that perhaps makes us think that this is less of a hardcore political organization, even though it probably is, they present themselves not in that mode. But still, we can see that there is a donate button pretty close to the top. It isn't in a big red box, but it's there. The update feature, kind of the signing up for their mailing list, though, is prominent, probably more prominent than on FreedomWorks. And so maybe that says something about them. Maybe they're more interested in kind of getting bodies or getting boots on the ground than they are just getting money. We can also see right up here at the top this logo for the Center for American Progress, kind of Campus Progress's backing organization. So it's worth keeping your eye out for little things like that. We can also see that the story is nested within a series of links. We see the other issues that Campus Progress is working on, DREAM Act, LGBT equality, healthcare, etc. So again, this story is just, or this opinion piece is just part of a large context. So probably the biggest difference between this Campus Progress page and the FreedomWorks page is that with this opinion piece, we have a big image right up at the top. You just can't miss it. And even though images, again, like I said earlier, are things that we often skim off when we're printing stuff out, they're really important to an argument. They frame the whole thing. In a lot of ways, the image is that front book cover. You can't really read the essay on the website without looking at the students kind of sitting right in front of you. And so it's almost impossible to ignore this when we're doing a holistic analysis of this document. And so that said, we have to begin to ask ourselves, what does this image do? What work does it do as a small part, maybe as a large part of the argument? But it's not alone. It's at the top of an opinion piece, and so we have to look at it as a portion of an argument. Maybe as something that colors an argument or preps us in a particular way for an argument. If you're thinking about diversity and you're presented with an image full of students of color, most of them look pretty happy. You have one student here on the left holding up a sign. And so it looks like these are kind of model students, model citizens. And so the sign in the message, diversity works, is kind of the message of the image that this is a future that we can look toward. This is a good thing that's happening. And so when we're performing rhetorical analyses of articles within websites, we really have to take into account a lot of these contextual elements. So things like the general color scheme, looking at how the website constructs itself. You'll notice on this one too that there are no ads, just like on FreedomWorks. But if we go over to something like Slate, a website that rather than trying to rally a political cause or promote political action, is maybe trying to make a profit too, you'll see that the ads are prominent. They're almost the biggest thing on the page. They overshadow the main image. They hide kind of the extra stories that you might read. You can see it on Slate. You can see it on something like the New York Times, where World of Warcraft is right up there at the top. And so if we look at these more focused, politically motivated websites, they really try and draw your attention to the argument. They funnel you right through this picture and into the text. And then they try and make it so you don't get distracted by wow or by something about school, just whatever it is else that they're maybe trying to sell you. On these political websites, they're trying to sell you a perspective or sell you a message more than anything else. And so it's important to note that lack of ads, as well as what images are there, what else they're asking you to do. But again, you have to look at the text. You have to read the text and figure out what it's arguing and then work it within the website. You have to see how all of these different parts work together. Nothing is kind of a standalone element.